tuning in today, everyone. I just want to let you know my book is out and available on Amazon and Barnes& Noble. The name is Parents, Our Greatest Teachers. And now, back to our episode. Hello, everyone. This is your host, Alex Valgood, and this is Leap of Health. And today we have Eileen Durfee. She's a practitioner in nutritional balance and science. She's also an entrepreneur. She's the founder of her own health companies called Creatrix Solutions. She's also she has been featured in major media outlets, including ABC, NBC, and CBS, sharing all of the spinal fitness revolution. So that's like super, super awesome. And we're going to be talking about the miracle of ozone. Everybody's been hearing it here and there. It's getting popular. And so we're going to be talking about that. But before that, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you get to found this company and be this entrepreneur and talk about all the subjects that you've been doing lately.
I have been sick my whole life, from the doctors pulling me out with forceps to my hips being twisted and having to wear special shoes because my one knee would hit the other. I was in pain all the time. The doctors didn't have a solution. I, pretty much lived with it. My parents did have me go to a chiropractor who just kind of put a lift in my shoe, but it didn't get rid of the pain or improve my posture. Then I grew 9 inches in 3 months, and that was very painful. And then shortly after that, I was walking in a grocery store parking lot and a car ran me over. So I ended up finding a chiropractor who had rehabilitative exercises that are the basis of my spinal fitness product line. However, I had gotten silver omega filling when I was 20 years old. And then from then on, I was really sick with multiple chemical sensitivities, allergies. I had a higher than normal white blood cell count, which after I got them removed and replaced with porcelain in the 80s, then that resolved itself. But I had a whole host of problems where I became allergic to everything. I figured out about leaky gut and candida and avoided gluten and low carb, higher protein, those kinds of things. I just didn't believe that I was supposed to be on antihistamines and antibiotics, for the rest of my life. So I just started chasing symptoms with natural products at first. And then I came across hair analysis because, a farmer, they do a soil test first to figure out what kind of fertilizer to put on the ground. Because, putting nitrogen doesn't raise nitrogen in the plant. Mm-hmm. And the same applies to humans because this law of elements impacts all of Earth. And so, like if we take zinc will lower sodium and raise potassium. And so you really kind of have to look at the whole spectrum of what's going on. And so I got a hair analysis, changed what I was doing because they said certain things were making my root cause worse. Mm-hmm. So I weaned off of all that extra calcium and magnesium I was using to sleep and to go to the bathroom and all these other things. And I was having anxiety, panic attacks. I had really bad joint pains, psoriasis. My hair was falling out. It was hard to think. I just had so many things going on. And little by little, as I was, on this new diet, taking these supplements, my symptoms started disappearing. And I thought, boy, this is just great after about 3 months. And they said, well, you need a retest. And I'm thinking, well, I'm fine. I don't need a retest. 5 months, a lot of all those symptoms came back. I'm going, what the heck? So I retested, and there was only one recommended change. it's like they give you a metabolic pack, a glandular, like a sodium potassium ratio adjuster and digestive enzyme. It's pretty simple. And one of them, they had me on 2 tablets 3 times a day, and they reduced it to 1 tablet 3 times a day. And like after about 3 days, I was back to feeling fantastic again. Then I was like looking at my vitamin cupboards full of all this stuff, horrified, thinking and knowing then that I caused some of my own new problems trying to medicate, the original problem. And that all led me to wanting to be able to escort these toxins out of the body faster, which are things like, coffee enemas, drinking ozonated water, doing near infrared saunas versus the typical sauna. There's all these things that I started learning about the better, easier method, to use together to get the toxins out, because we can't get well if we don't get them, because they're sequestered in our tissues and our organs. And so as soon as we get them out of there to the bloodstream, and then you can have every imaginable symptom. A lot of people will talk about going on a detox cleanse and how you're going to have Hexheimer reactions. You're going to feel terrible before you feel better. I was like, well, what if I just sped up the rate at which all this stuff left with all these gizmos and gadgets so I could feel like Superwoman when I was detoxifying? So that became my mission at the time. This was my hobby because I was a nuclear power plant engineer, auditor, trainer. And then I switched to land development, building houses. I built 12 houses a year, ran construction crews. Then I managed nonprofit corporations. So I've done a lot of different things in my life. And this just became my passion. And then in about 2010, I started the business. And in 2015, I was totally done. Like I was doing, part-time this and part-time that. Then I was just totally devoted to my company and developing products. And I've been granted 10 patents. And I ship products to 91 countries in the world. And I really enjoy what I'm doing. And at 60 years old, I look younger than I did, 10 years ago. I feel great. And it's just wonderful to share my story to minimize suffering that other people may be going through.
Yeah, for sure. You look great for whoever it's watching on YouTube. She looks amazing, and I'm glad. I know it was a tough journey, but it has, got you to this point where you look amazing. I'm sure you learn amazing things, and you're sharing all your knowledge with all your products out there in the world. So that it's amazing. So thank you. And we're so happy to have you today here. We're going to be talking about ozone. Tell us what it is and how are you implementing that with either your products, or how do you use it for healing?
Sure. Well, ozone is like a gas, 3 singlets of O1. And in nature, things are positive and negative, and they're in pairs. So when you've got the 3rd singlet, that's very unstable. So it breaks off and oxidizes substances or pathogens. That oxidation power is amazing because microbes, like bacteria, viruses, fungi, yeast, protozoa, all those kinds of things that can be harmful to humans. If you use an antibiotic or an antifungal, they can become resistant to that, over time. Not with ozone, because ozone uses through oxidation, uses something called cell lysine, where it literally blows a hole in the membrane of that pathogen. So it destroys it, and it can never mutate against it to avoid that oxidation potential of ozone. And the thing about ozone, just like any matter on Earth, it's either gas, liquid, solid. And whenever anything is in a gaseous form, it's the most reactive. Now we hear about the ozone layer, we hear about ozone being hazardous to your lungs. So there's been a lot of fear of using ozone for that reason. And inhaling ozone in the gaseous state is dangerous because ozone will compete with the oxygen receptor sites in our lungs. So even the people that say, I love the smell of ozone, it makes me breathe deeper. I always say that's a homeostatic response to your body because it needs more oxygen. That's not a good thing.
Right.
Then the other thing that it does, because our lung tissue has really high lipids in it, and that gets oxidized very easily. So it's actually permanently destroying lung tissue, kind of like if you got a sunburn, your skin will peel. That is what's happening with your lungs when you inhale ozone. OSHA, I believe, says you shouldn't be breathing more than 0.1 part per million in the air. The more sensitive populations, like somebody with COPD or asthma, 0.03 is safe. Then for like a normal person, 0.08, but they like to average like, over 8 hours, exposure for safety. So when I started with ozone, I purchased an ozone generator and was taught to dissolve the ozone gas into water and then to use the water, because the water behaves differently than a gas. Now, different agencies around the world and different industries use ozonated water. It's a powerful tool. Like the city of Los Angeles, for instance, they ozonate their sewage to the point where it becomes crystal clear water.
I had no clue.
So it's all about the concentration or the parts per million of ozone dissolved in water and the time that you expose whatever it is that you want to oxidize to that concentration. For instance, we think about food safety. Everything's grown in dirt. So we have microscopic parasite larvae that we're ingesting. There's E. coli, salmonella, listeria. How many food recalls have we heard about? Strawberries killing people, lettuce, all these things. And if you look at like E. coli, for instance, it has a very low contact time and concentration to kill it. And it's super effective. Like 0.1 part per million dissolved ozone kills E. coli in 15 seconds.
Nice.
Now, the ozone generators that I have are by corona discharge. So they take ambient air and they make a high potency measured in grams per hour or milligrams per hour. I've got a countertop unit that's an 800 milligram per hour. And when you diffuse that gas into water, depending on the temperature of the water, like if you try to do hot water, you're not going to achieve as high of retention of the ozone gas in the water as room temperature or cooler water. But you can achieve like 1.5 part per million with that little machine. And remember, it only takes 0.1 part per million to kill E. coli in 15 seconds. So literally for making your food safe, it's an indispensable tool to have around the kitchen.
Right.
They always tell you when you're cooking chicken, don't rinse it, because they'll show black lights of how people had their sponge and they got, you know, drippings from their chicken breasts, and there was like bacteria, salmonella all over their kitchen, right?
Mhm.
Well, you can take ozonated water and rinse the salmonella and have a black light there, and it completely eradicates all of the salmonella. So you're not going to have the contamination around the kitchen or cross contamination, you know, on a cutting board, or, you know, with fruits or vegetables that you may be
Mhm.
cooking. And, you know, the effectiveness of ozonated water is very high. For instance, like people will take chlorine bleach to disinfect things, but there's toxic byproducts of chlorine bleach.
Mhm.
You can't drink chlorine bleach, but you can drink ozonated water, even though one molecule of dissolved ozone is 3,000 to 10,000 times more powerful than chlorine.
Wow.
But ozone is smart. This is just a miracle. You know, it's got this super oxidation power. You know, with COVID, we've got all these hand sanitizers. I can't imagine all the superbugs we're creating with all this antibacterial stuff going on.
Yeah.
Where ozone kills COVID on contact. You know, so you get ozonated water, and you can use it to clean and sanitize, which is great, making your food safe, but that's not where it ends. The EPA, for instance, when there's contaminated groundwater, will drill a well, and they will have giant ozonators, and they'll ozonate the water in the aquifer to purify it, to break
Mhm.
down petrochemicals and heavy metals and all these poisons. So you think about that. Okay, the human body has got a lot of water in it,
Mhm.
and a lot of people want to detoxify. So for years now, there have been medical practitioners using ozone, actually from the late 1800s, and they have recommended drinking ozonated water. Now we know, you know, scientifically, that that's safe because ozone is smart. When cells have a protective enzyme coating around them, that's like a normal healthy cell,
Mhm.
ozone bypasses them and it doesn't oxidize them. It's only the cell that's grown rogue or has lost its enzyme coating, so it's weaker, or it's one that's infected with a bacteria or a virus. And so it's like a leg up for your immune system when you drink ozonated water, because it's lowering the pathogenic load in the body.
Mhm.
Because every day we're making millions of cells and recycling cells. So it helps us recycle those things. Additionally, ozonated water, there's like a PubMed study that has confirmed that ozonated water benefits include increased glutathione, our master antioxidant,
Right.
and superoxide dismutase, catalase, prostacyclin, red blood cell glycolysis rate, the oxygen metabolism, besides, like I said, the inactivation of bacteria, virus, fungus, yeast, and protozoa. And how drinking ozonated water boosts oxygen metabolism is when that molecule of ozone, which is O1, O1, and O1, when the odd
Mhm.
uneven third breaks off and oxidizes whatever, what's left over is pure O2. So if it's not a miracle enough that it's reducing your pathogenic load, purifying the water in your body,
Yeah.
because really all matter is differentiated by the number of electrons that are rotating around that nucleus. And so when you've got this oxidation that removes that, it breaks down these substances into less harmful matter. Then it actually boosts, it gives us that boost of oxygen. And one of the main reasons why our cells lose enzyme coatings, because of the lack of oxygen. People are sedentary. They're sitting at their desks. They have the sitting disease. They're indoors. So the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems are stripping the oxygen out of the air. So anything that we can do to increase our body's oxygen levels so that we have more cells with the protective enzyme coating, that actually makes them more resistant to infection from pathogens.
Yeah.
So that's why it's giving us a better immune response. It's a wonderful tool. So that's for drinking ozonated water. And it's found that it's not destroying the beneficial bacteria. There's a medical application. Now, my ozone generators are not the medical grade. Mine are for cleaning your counters, keeping your food safe, drinking some ozonated water. Heck, you can spray your plants and not have to use toxic chemicals on them because it gets rid of the powdery mold and mildew. It causes the plants to grow faster, produce more crops. You can use it to clean the dogs, you know, your animals. I've got people who grow 4-H animals and they water their animals and they don't have to scrub algae out of the troughs anymore because the ozone takes care of that, and the animals drink more water, they're healthier. The one guy that has pigs, when he goes out to slop the hogs, he uses his ozone generator and sprays down the pen, and he doesn't have flies anymore. So he doesn't have to put miticide on the horse eyes and the animal eyes because of the flies. So ozonated water is wonderful, but there's a medical aspect of it that people should be aware of. It's a type of ozone that's generated, which is fed not by ambient air, but by oxygen tanks. Because when you use ambient air, there's part of that 0.003%. That's very little, but that's nitrous oxide. When it's dissolved in water for cleaning the food, for drinking, that's totally safe. But for medical, what they'll do is they'll like draw your blood out, ozonate your blood, and put it back in your body. So that we don't want to have any of that. So it has to be done with an ozone generator that's fed by oxygen tanks. Same thing, there's a treatment called insufflation, where they will put the straight gas, remember how I told you how reactive it was, in a bag, and then you can put it in your rectum, vagina, in your ears, and those kinds of treatment must have the oxygen fed, you know, medical grade ozone gas. And it does amazing things. It's anti-inflammatory. A lot of dentists now are even using it in the mouth to clean out, like if they're doing a root canal and things like that, so they're not locking in that bacteria, you know, in the root canal for the damaging effects that does to the immune system. I'm just trying to think of other uses for ozone. They use it in just about every industry. Bottled water, growing grapes. They're cleaning it out, different areas, because it's more effective than chlorine bleach. They did a study where they smeared cow feces on walls. So there's 50 different pathogens in those cow feces. Then they took ozonated water at different concentrations to figure out, when we spray it on there and we leave it on there, how long and how strong does it have to be to kill everything? And the magic number was 4 parts per million killed everything. in short order. So I do have a big machine that you can screw a hose into and then screw a hose out, and have a sprayer that makes up to 6 parts per million. It's got legs and handles, so you can carry it around your garden, use it with your animals, all those kinds of things. So we get back to the first topic we talked about how breathing ozone gas damages lung tissue. I used to run my ozone generator and turn on an exhaust fan and leave the room. And I would come back in after a while. And if you come back in too soon, you still smell the ozone. If you can smell the ozone, it's at a high enough concentration that if you're around it very long, you're going to have lung damage. Additionally, people who are around ozone that say they like the smell of it, I ask them, do you have indigestion and bloating and stomach issues? And all of them say, oh, yeah, I do. That's a side effect of when you've inhaled too much toxic ozone. Immediately you get indigestion, bloating in the gut. So we want to avoid that. And I wanted a better gizmo than, because I would always forget. You ozonate your water, you leave, and you're trying to time to come back, but the phone rings or you get sidetracked on a tangent, and then you go back to use your ozonated water. It purified the water, but what happens is that's only active, that process of that third molecule breaking off, for like 20, 30 minutes. So you got to drink or use ozonated water during that time period. So it wasn't very convenient. And I bought this apparatus. It was $275. And it was just a glass science beaker that had like a straw that went down in it with this porous tip, with these tubes that went to an ordinary PVC pipe filled with these pellets. I mean, so it was awkward to carry around. And I had a dissolved ozone meter to test what was the concentration in the water. I could never get it over like 0.3 part per million, even in cool water. It's like, why can't we get it anymore? And so, I mean, I took a glass cutter and I cut off the thing. I started playing around with different diffusers. And then I went to sleep and I saw it, just a filter cap that I could screw on an ordinary glass jar with a better diffuser that had small pores. Because it's like, how much surface area is there in a jar of sand versus a jar of big rocks? There's a whole lot more surface area with small sand. So if you have a diffuser with super small holes in it, you can dissolve ozone gas in water faster. And then this has the pellets in it with a filter, so it can hook up to any ozone generator. And my ambient air, it degassed 100% of it. So it solved the problem where we could make ozonated water in less time because we're dissolving it faster in the water. So that it actually extends the life of your ozone machine, because the ozone machines, a lot of them cheap ones that you find have like 1,000-hour ozone generator, even a 500-hour ozone generator. The ones I make have 8,000-hour ozone generators, because I got tired, because I started drinking ozonated water in like 1998. So I've been drinking ozonated water for a long time. It was one of the first things that I started doing for my health because I had candida so bad. And so it helped me dramatically, because candida kept on mutating against all the natural antifungals I was taking. And so anytime I ate too many carbs or had a cheat day of anything, it would just rage back. It didn't matter. I mean, it was like I thought I was never getting rid of that. But it really, really helped me, drinking that ozonated water. So now there's a safe way to do it. and I've got the ozone generator and the degasser, in a bundle, but I'm trying to bring awareness because so many people, they're either so paranoid of it because they've heard it's harmful, or they don't know the dangers and they're hurting themselves and they don't even know it.
For sure. Is there such a thing as like too much quantity of water, ozonated water, that you could drink at once?
Well, with ozonated water, timing is important. You don't want to do it before bed because it's like you'll have natural energy when you get all that oxygen, like you drank a cup of coffee, but you don't have the jitters, you don't have the crash. So you don't want to drink it before bed because it'll keep you awake. However, you don't want to drink it like with your food supplements, because remember the power of oxidation. You want it to clean up your body, right? We're water, let's decontaminate our body. But if we drink it with our supplements, it's going to break down the nutrition value of our supplements and make those less effective. And then it's going to use up the oxidation power of the ozone. So it's going to clean up less of our body. So it makes two good things worse or less effective. So when you think about that, drinking ozonated water 30 minutes before you eat and waiting 2 hours after you eat, obviously you can't drink all your water ozonated because of the timing of that. You're going to need water that isn't ozonated. I know that cancertutor.com, they recommend it as just a good practice for the people following their instructions to drink up to 2 liters of ozonated water a day. But I always teach everybody to start slow. Ozonate 4 ounces for a minute or two and drink that, because I've had 2 different people start out drinking ozonated water, and one that had a migraine when they were drinking the water said, "Oh my gosh, my migraine is gone." Or somebody who didn't have a headache drank it and got a headache because they were detoxing too fast. So everyone is different. So I always say, start slow and work up, because everyone is different.
Yeah, for sure. How about is it a difference between ages too? Like, can anyone drink ozonated water? Like
Yes.
kids?
Yes, anyone can drink ozonated water, but by body weight, they're not going to need much. So maybe if a parent or something has children, they could ozonate a full, this is a 32-ounce glass. They have to keep the water level below the filter, because there's a FDA approved stainless steel screen in there and a filter mesh and the pellets, and those cannot get wet or it won't filter. But if you dump it over, get it wet, you just take it out, dry it all, and then it'll work again. But so let's say you're going to do like 25 ounces of water, then you could add other water to it, dilute it down so that the children could have some, but not a lot. But it won't hurt someone. It's just that the powerful oxidation that happens depending on what's being oxidized could either make someone feel great or have them feel a little bit rough. And the people that are sensitive to things and are easily get reactions to stuff, I would say start slower. I've had many people say, "Eileen, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't listen to that or read that part of the instructions, and I've been drinking 16 ounces a day, no problem. I'm not having any issues. I feel fantastic." So it's rare that somebody would feel bad by drinking the ozonated water.
How about pregnant women?
better yet, to have more oxygen in her body.
Right. Okay. Will that interfere with anything that they might be taking? Just the supplements, don't take it with
Well,
them.
you just have to have it on an empty stomach.
Okay.
So what it's doing is just putting more oxygen in the body, helping the body's immune system fight pathogens and recycle cells. And it's, giving them more antioxidants. It's just so beneficial.
That's
But
amazing.
also, especially, pregnant women, to keeping their food safe, to prepare their food with ozonated water, to clean, fruits and vegetables. I think about the people who are juicing, all the
Yes.
surface of that and the parasite larvae that's going in their body. And a lot of us don't have the strong stomach acid anymore. And that strong stomach acid are what helps kill some of those parasites. But if we can, I always tell people, let's avoid getting toxin by like breathing clean air, cleaning our foods. So it's like taking the straws off the camel's back for our immune system so it can really fight what it needs to.
Okay. This I know we talk about the, people use it to detoxify their body. Does it has any effect with heavy metals? With people that has like a big load of heavy metals, will this be helpful?
Yes. Yep, it does. That's why the EPA uses it, to clean up heavy metals out of groundwater and things like that. So it's very beneficial.
That's amazing.
It's not like a standalone, because it's going to start going through your system and oxidizing, and it's not going to get systemically everywhere. But as you're doing that, as more cells get that protective enzyme coating, and you're getting more oxygen for the body to work like it should, then you're going to have benefits. But I still believe in detox, like doing near infrared sauna therapy, with the blood shunting, with the radiant panels, so you can activate the mitochondria to produce more ATP, to get the nitric oxide, to do all those wonderful things. Our aging really has a lot to do with our mitochondria health.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and one really great point that you mentioned was that we need more oxygen in our body. I mean, a lot of people even forgets to breathe.
Right.
They're inside, they're indoors. There's not a lot of really clean air going through. They're sitting for a long time. And yeah, I mean, this will be like a really great way to supplement that and get that oxygen through.
I have another gizmo. It's called the Breathe Safe. It's more of a personal space air purifier because it's super small. It fits in the palm of my hand, and it can run off of the portable battery banks that you might charge your tablet or your cell phone with. So you can take it with you portable. But after I did some lab tests, we found out that this increases background levels of oxygen 70 to 118%. Besides cleaning up, like putting one of these in your saunas, because it cleans up the toxic humidified sauna sweat that you're rebreathing. It just is very powerful. It's a plasma air purifier that is super helpful, especially if you're sitting at your desk all day. I have people sleeping with it. So there's a lot of product reviews on the Breathe Safe that people would just be amazed. Their oxygen saturation goes up, because there's a lot of people that have a low oxygen. That's a real problem for them. So doing everything, like being outdoors, but if you're indoors, use the Breathe Safe, drink some ozonated water, all these things, be active. All these things can help our body oxygen levels. Yeah, because people don't realize that there's an oxygen allocation system in the body. When there's not enough oxygen, the body hierarchy, it will like protect brain tissue and bone marrow over joint cartilage. Same thing with water. The hydration allocation system in the body, it'll let you destroy your joint tissue and protect that bone marrow and other stuff. And so making sure that you have oxygen, hydration, being outside, draining off those poisonous positive ions coming off of our electronics, you know, it's like you would not believe how beneficial it is for your hormones, for your hydration, you know, to be outside and ground and get early morning sunlight into the eyes without sunglasses. Just super simple things we can do to help our bodies.
Yeah, it's super important. I talked to an expert about, you know, the sunlight and why it's important and what's doing to our mitochondria and also, you know, our body or hormones and everything. So it's really a lot of good stuff that you can do for nothing. Literally just go outside, grind yourself, get some sun, feel good about it, breathe fresh air. Yeah, so definitely going back to our basics is what's gonna keep us alive mostly.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I used to build houses and run construction crews, and those construction materials, the off-gassing and the chemicals. I mean, the EPA even says that your indoor air is 3 to 5 times more toxic than outdoors. So there's a trick I always tell people to do, and that is to turn on their heating and ventilation air conditioning system fan to run continuous. Because even the EPA says that if you can increase indoor air circulation, it decreases, you know, problems associated with, you know, the level of purity in the air. So just a little bit goes a long way. And I always encourage people, because every motor has copper windings, and when the voltage turns it on and off, it hammers those windings and it wears it out quicker. And leaving it running continuously really doesn't use any more power than it hammering it on and off, and it's not going to wear out the fan. And the other tip is to make sure and change that return air filter frequently. Those are something that can really help people in their home.
Yeah, for sure. No, those are amazing tips. I know when I moved here to Texas now, in California, we don't really run the AC or the heater at all. Like we always have like a pretty great weather. But here, it's either really cold or really hot. So yeah, changing those filters are super important, because even like every 3 weeks, if you really pay attention to your filter, you'll see that it gets pretty dirty and messy there. So yeah, those are very important things to keep in mind. And always, you know, a simple thing is just opening the windows and let it ventilate and get some fresh air in and out. That's always easy thing to do. So yeah, this has been amazing. I mean, like all the information I think has been great, especially for everybody that has never heard of ozone and what it could really do, and you know, in these healing purposes that we're talking about. Is there something else that you would like to share with us before we go?
Well, if I'm going to leave the house and let's say I burnt dinner, I will turn on the ozone machine and discharge it directly into the air and then leave. Then when I come back, just smells like a mountain breeze, you know, just all nice and clean. So there's appropriate times to use the ozone gas in the air.
Yeah, and actually, that was a question that I wanted to ask you too. I'm glad that you're mentioning this. So once you turn on the ozone into the air, what's like a good amount of time to be safe to like come back?
There's a timer where they could run it for an hour. So if
Okay.
they ran it for or you could run it for 5 minutes or an hour, but let's
Okay.
say they set it for an hour because they knew they weren't going to come home for 3 hours.
Yeah.
That would be safe because all the oxidation would happen and it would be just fresh, clean air. And
Okay.
ozone is really good too, because, you know, if you just had a gathering with a whole bunch of people over at your house,
Right.
you know, and then everybody leaves and like you are going to be outside for a while or want to go run an errand, to turn it on and have it be positioned right by your furnace intake, because, you know, you turn your fan to continuous. So it'll just suck that ozone gas up and disperse it throughout the whole house and then sterilize the air.
Right.
Because any, you know, cold, flu, bacteria that may be lingering, you could eradicate. So it's very useful to know how to use it safely.
Yes, for sure. And you mentioned will it kill mold and things like that?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. I hate mold.
Yeah, and you could make a strong ozonated water, because I know some people have a lot of mold in their bathrooms because of inadequate ventilation. So
Yes.
you can, instead of using toxic bleach that then gives you a headache and makes you sick, besides the mold, you know, you can deal with that. I have a little, I'm looking to see if I got the gizmo here, ionic refresher. I do have one right over here. I'll grab real quick. This just plugs in, you know, a lot of people that aren't health conscious use the Glade Airwick, which are not an air cleaner. They're an air you know, that has perfume in it, that's just scenting the air to cover up. But I mean, if you look on the Health and Human Services website, the ingredients in that, a lot of it causes cancer. They just have it in minuscule levels that it skates by. But, you know, when you consider what's coming out of your carpets, your drapes, your furniture, all these poisons in the air, it all adds up. Yeah. So I created a little gizmo that you plug in that's about the size of that you know, Glade Airwick, that actually cleans the air. And in lab tests, this actually gets rid of 99.9% of bacteria in the air. It's great. Amazing.
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are pretty great. I love that.
But this one doesn't make ozone. There's a lot of them out there on the market that are using ozone. But this one uses metal impregnated fiber tips that disperse negative ions. Now it's only 32,000 negative ions versus my Breathe Safe device that I showed earlier. It makes 19,100,000 negative ions. But in laboratory tests, this is much more powerful killing pathogens, where the Breathe Safe only has like a 48% kill rate, but it makes oxygen, and this one doesn't make oxygen. I mean, they have different uses.
Yeah, for sure. Those are all amazing things that you're showing us. I'm super obsessed about it. I want them all. And thank you for all the information. If anyone wants to get a hold of you for any questions about the products that you mentioned, or just any questions about the ozone, where can they find you?
They can find us on the website, creatrixsolutions.com, and that's spelled a little different. CREATRIX is an X-ray solutions.com. We have an Instagram. And so we have a lot of videos and tutorials and things like that, and blogs. And then you can just email us or text us. So yeah.
That's awesome. And I will put all her information in the show notes. I will put also links where you can find things like that to improve your water, to improve the air in your home. They're great things, great tools. Obviously, do your research and do, buy whatever ones are more fit for you. So we'll put all the information there. If you need more information on my podcast, you'll know to look me up on alexbelgood.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. Remember too, my book is out. You can buy it on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. It's called Parents Are Greatest Teachers. You can DM me, message me if you have any questions. And thank you everybody for being here today. This was amazing. Thank you, Eileen, for all the information. And everybody out there, have a blessed day. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.